have introduced myself after the record button is on. And everyone should realize that record is on. So in case you're sensitive to that, you know how to act. And this is also a good time to check your volume to make sure that you can hear good. If not, change the volume on your own computer. So anyway, I was saying that we're only going to cover a couple systems. There are many more and many more details to be discussed. And I'd like to go through everything and take questions at the end. And you'll notice for those who came in while the welcome screen was up that we were suggesting, we've all been on so many Zoom calls lately. We know that the chat can get very disruptive. So maybe if you can hold your questions and comments until you know I haven't covered them, it might be good. So hold them towards the end. It might be best for everybody. So I think that's all I wanted to say for now in the welcome screen. So what's important for an electoral system evaluation? This was the question asked by many leagues when they were doing their studies on election systems. And it was also the result, or the result of those was the meat of our new national position. And this is part of it. Now, remembering that no election system is perfect, none. Our national position represents what members think are the most important elements. So everybody isn't going to agree. Like I can say one right offhand that comes to my mind is that leagues prefer sincere voting, you know, being able to vote the way you really want over strategic voting, but not everybody thinks that that's good. Anyway, these were our choices for many, many leagues, and it's how we came up with our position. I'm not going to read through all of them, but this is the final list. It's included in our position on voter representation electoral systems, and it can be seen online and in the new impact on issues. That's the 2020-2022 version. And I think when she gets a little less busy, I'm going to ask Paula to put a link to that if you don't already have it in the chat box. So you'll be able to see the whole position, and it covers these items. Sorry that keeps showing up on my screen. Not quite sure why that's happening. Okay, you know, basically, there are really only two types of elections. This is getting down to the real nitty-gritty of it. There are single winner elections, such as for a governor or mayor or a representative of, we are like going way past where we want to go here. Sorry. These things can certainly cause a problem. I must have leaned on a key. Okay, so anyway, there are only two systems, and multiple winner elections can be used for things such as city councils or county commissions, things like that, when they're voted at large, which we will talk about much more. And ranked choice voting can be used for either of these. Now, before we talk about alternatives, you may ask, what's wrong with our typical most votes wins system, which is sometimes called plurality and technically is known as first past the post? The answer to what's wrong with it, and again, we need to try to get that out of there. The answer is maybe lots. And did we just freeze? Can everybody hear me? Paula, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, we just froze up there for a minute. Okay, hopefully this is going to work. So yes, there are many problems with the current system that is first past the post. And since we're just talking about single winners here for a second, these are some of the most important ones. We're all used to talking about spoilers. That's very common. Wasted votes, and that it's not so good for minor parties and things like that. And when you're talking about a single winner, it doesn't require a majority either. Okay, so while we're not covering all single winner systems today, these are the major ones at electing a single winner, just some of the major ones. Notice that they're all under the label of winner take all. And I mention this because it's a fundamental description when you're just electing one person. And that's important to know. So on the right or on the left, you see first past the post. That's again, our most common one. It's most votes wins. And under that, you see delayed runoff, and which means when 50% is mandated to win, people have to go back to the polls, or people like me in Oregon would get another ballot, and you would have another election. And of course, we just had the very infamous one in Georgia, where they were having a runoff just a couple of weeks ago. So, you know, I love this picture. It shows a clear indication of why our current system is not fair when there's just one winner. If 10 people plan to meet and 7 out of the 10 want to go to the pub, I ask, why are we going for coffee? And this is what first past the post means. Because if that's all you're looking at, 3 people out of the 10, 3 people voted for coffee. But all the other pubs got, 2 or 1. So we end up going for coffee, even though everybody else wanted to go for a beer. So this is one of my favorite and simplest ways to think about ranked choice voting, giving us the power to back up our first choice. And this is especially important if your first choice doesn't happen to be coffee that night. So it's just something I like to keep in mind. Easy. And this is a mock ballot, which also shows that for the voter, it's also easy to fill out your ballot. Jokingly, and I do, please remember I am joking here, one of the biggest downfalls is that there are so many different terms for this. We're using ranked choice voting because it's popular in US cities and now states. It's also known as instant runoff voting when we're talking about a single winner. In Canada and in the UK, they call it alternative vote. And in Australia and Robert's Rules of Order, they call it preference vote. So it can really get kind of confusing just to keep the names in line. But I also want to say there are other ranked systems like weighted ones or Condorcet that we are not covering. We are concentrating on what is legal, practical, transparent, reasonable, and known in government elections. And that's why we're concentrating on the forms we're concentrating on. And this is just a demonstration to show that even ballots for an actual race are fairly simple. This was the 218 primary in Maine for the Republican Party. And you can see it's basically the same thing where their first, second, third choices and so on are there. So all the voter needs to know is how to choose their favorites. But leaguers and many other people are always curious as to how the counting works. And like I said, all the voter needs to know is the order of their favorites. But because leagues always want to know the details, we're going to try to see if this video will work to give us a demonstration. It always takes a little bit of time to show up, so give it a second and we'll hope that our audio and everything else is working. And Paula, if audio or video doesn't work when I start it, please let me know.
All good.
Vote for your favorite color.
The instant runoff way.
Instead of voting for just one color, you get to rank your top 3.
Well, purple is the best, but if I can't have purple, then I want blue. And if neither of those wins, then I guess I could live with yellow.
Now let's count up everybody's votes.
Under instant runoff rules, it's not enough just to get the most votes.
You need a majority.
More than 50% of the votes.
So, purple's ahead, but it only has 7 votes. It needs at least 11 to win.
So we eliminate whoever's in last place.
Sorry, yellow fans, we're going to your second choice.
2 more for pink.
1 for purple.
But no one has 11 votes yet.
Still no majority.
Bye-bye, blue. 3 for purple.
2 for pink.
And we have a winner.
The instant runoff way.
Okay, so that gives you a really quick idea of how the voting's done. And quite frankly, I'm going on to this next slide, and I have it in here because I never know when we're going to have problems with the videos. So this is now kind of a refresher course after watching that, and it's pretty easy. That the voters vote their preference, and that's all that really matters to them. Then you tally all the ballots, and again, this is for a single winner. If there is a majority winner, then the race is called. You declare a winner. But if by any chance, in this case, there wasn't a majority, you eliminate the lowest candidate. Like I can't remember what the first one was that they eliminated, maybe yellow, but you eliminate the lowest candidate, and then you retally the votes, and it goes on like that. So just to review, ranked choice voting or instant running off voting when you're talking about a single winner. These are some of the benefits and some of the drawbacks. It does elect somebody with the broadest kind of support. There's more choice. It's more expressive of a ballot. You can say more what you feel, not just what your first choice is. Now, there are some ballots that are more expressive, but this is definitely more so than first past the post. Of the single winner systems, it is the best for sincere voting, and it can save money in some cases by reducing a second election. We all heard, and I don't have the final figure, I'm sorry to say, but that in the 2021 Georgia race, the campaigns themselves, just the campaigns, spent almost $1 billion, on campaigning. That's a lot of money, but the taxpayers also paid a lot to run another election. And unfortunately, I don't have the figure. I did look and I couldn't find it. But anyway, still a lot of money. And there is a majority result, which is a benefit in the final round. However, I start the drawbacks column also with majority because it is like a delayed runoff. It is the majority that are active in the final round of counting. It's just that you don't have to go back to the polls. And the next thing is a little hard to explain. I'm not going to get into it too much, but it's a perfect example of why not all systems are not perfect. This is not easily strategized beforehand, and it's rare. but it is also mathematically possible for some choices, your second and third choices, to help or hurt the other choices, not as you intended. And again, no system is perfect. And in the eyes of many of the studies, this was a lesser issue than other things. It can be expensive to implement at first, although I must say that's changing because there are a lot of new equipment out there that's not quite as expensive as it was. And one of the bills we're going to talk about in a little while even talks about new machinery having to be accommodating ranked choice voting. So that's good. And it is more complicated than vote for one. But on the other hand, it's not much more complicated than 1, 2, 3. So that is an overview of ranked choice voting for a single winner. And now we're going to look at it for a multiple winner. And while we're going to concentrate just on ranked choice voting for multiple winners, it's important to understand some of the umbrella categories. And that's the middle row here. You see on the left, it says plurality, and most of the time I refer to that as block. And then semi-proportional and proportional representation. And the point is that not all elections with multiple winners are the same. We need to understand this before we can understand how and why there are problems with elections that are held at large. And again, remember these terms when I say at large, it's the same as saying multiple winner district and multi-member district or multiple winner. As you'll see, the failures come when an at-large election or when at-large elections are conducted with the wrong type of ballot. And of course, I mean the kind that is just most votes wins. This is the good, the bad, and the ugly of at-large elections. To me, understanding the different umbrella categories of at-large elections is probably more important than the details of different systems. We can have the very worst of all voting systems when using block voting. You see the one that says poor there for multiple seats. Basically, it's at large with a ballot that is the most votes wins. And it also means that 51% of certain groups can win everything, and those in the 49% bracket get zilch, nothing. So that's why it's a really poor system. On the other hand, with an at-large election, you can have the gold standard of proportional representation, the one at the bottom. You know, I actually put this slide in, not because it's just comparing them, but because I like the little graphic people at the bottom, because I really think it shows why the difference is significant and important to understand. Under the black, at-large or multi-member district, you can see that all 5 seats can be won just by that one group. They're all the same. And then on the other side, the 5 seats can be elected in proportion to the support in the population they're about to govern. Now, this is just actually another view of saying the same thing, a 5-seat race explaining the same thing I just said, especially when you look at the breakdown of what the voters wanted. You know, you see the 22% in the gold grid there, and 38% in the green dots, and 40% in the white polka dots. Would it be fair in this election for the white polka dots to win everything? Now, hopefully you think not, But that's what happens in a lot of the US elections when we have at-large elections with our typical ballots. And I'm simply repeating all this because I think it is so important. Just because you have a multi-winner or at-large contest doesn't mean you automatically have elections that will result in proportional representation. Far from it, as a matter of fact. This is one of the reasons why minority groups have long felt that at-large elections don't serve them. They don't. They're right when they're used this way. And sometimes they try to go to districts as a solution. But for the gold standard of elections, meaning proportional representation, you have an at-large area and use a different type of ballot, such as with ranked choice voting. So again, I'm just repeating that. You need two things, an at-large area or at-large district, and use a better type of ballot. So this is a famous quotation by John Adams, and on the bottom line, his point of equal representation is the underlying principle of proportional representation. A really important thing. It's not just something we dreamed up in the last 10 years. As a matter of fact, before explaining more on proportional RCV, let's look at another famous PR advocate whom we all know. I hope we can. Did we just, well, let's see here. Okay, I froze up a little bit, everybody. I'm trying to get it back. If we can hang on just a second, we're at 23. I'm going to see if I can. I'm going to pause share and see if this will come back up. Okay, let's try again. Okay, for some reason, I see that we're, some of our slides are, okay. Well, we'll go on from here.
There it is.
Yeah, I know it's there, but something happened in between. Okay, good. Finally. 100 years ago, our founding mother, Carrie Catt, spoke on the floor of the League Convention. It was the second national convention in 1921, and she spoke as the chair of the Committee on Election Laws and Methods. There is an audio recording of the report, and in it, she said, she refers to Germany and Finland, and she said, "You will never get women in office," she means, "until you get proportional representation, whether it's in the cities, the states, or the nation." And this was met with great applause from the League delegates, as you hear on the audio recording. But it wasn't just a passing interest. In her 1947 obituary, in the National Municipal Review, it states, Carrie Chapman Catt, who died March 9th at the age of 88, was a member of the Advisory Council of the Proportional Representation League from 1919 until the time of her death. She was one of the leaders to whom PR appealed as a natural extension of the suffrage movement. It was important not only to get the vote, but to make the vote effective in securing representation. And that brings us to full representation systems that can be simply defined, and again, I am being very simplistic here, but as the majority rule with fair representation for minority groups in direct proportion to how groups of like-minded people vote. And again, when we say minority, we mean lots of things, gender, racial, political, party minorities. And to put the concept into the simplest form in numbers, we can think of it this way. 60% of like-minded voters would win approximately 60% of the seats, but they wouldn't win all the seats. And 40% of voters would earn approximately 40% of the seats, but not nothing. So tonight, we're only going to review the proportional ranked choice voting system that you see on your screen. It says STV, which technically is single transferable vote, which seems the most possible in the United States. And while any full PR system would be beneficial, ranked choice voting has two advantages in the United States. One, the fact that it's based on candidates instead of parties appears to be more palatable to Americans. And that was pointed out, I don't know if you can see the whole thing here, but that was pointed out in an article from the Union of Concerned Scientists just this month. And then number two, it has a history here. And it's already being used in government elections. I like to say it's kind of shovel ready, if you will. So the ballot on this slide should look familiar. It says proportional ranked choice voting on the side, but it's the same ballot you already saw for a single winner. And that's just my way of telling you that for the voter, it looks the same. It's still as easy as 1, 2, 3, and with more advantages. And the greatest of these is that more people are represented. Now, as I said, in the eyes of the voter, the ballot looks very similar. But the major difference between proportional RCV, called STV on the slide, and IRV, instant runoff voting, for the single seats, is the threshold for winning a spot because of the extra number of open seats. We're all familiar with 50% plus one electing a majority. But surprising to some, the mathematical formula for establishing a proportional threshold is the same formula. It's the same formula, but a different threshold to accommodate more seats. And there are some more fair and a little more complicated systems that use fractional transfers. And indeed, and the reason they do is because there's even fewer wasted votes. But I wanted to say, admittedly, when you're using pure by hand paper ballot counting, it is slower going for STV or for proportional ranked choice voting. Currently, I know of one place that only does that in audit situations where they're using by hand STV. And then sometimes the fractions are eliminated. But it is much, as I said, it is much fairer. And when we use a paper ballot counted by a computer, we can make sure that even fewer votes are wasted. And we're going to hope that this video works as well as the last one worked. So this shows you, and you'll recognize something else familiar here, because they continue to use the Post-it notes, but they're showing you how it can work for a proportional ranked choice voting system. And again, let me know if the sound's on. I'm assuming it will be.
All good.
Vote for your favorite colors.
The instant runoff way.
Now with fractions. We already showed you how instant runoff elections work when there's only one winner.
But when there's more than one winner, it's a little more complicated.
We have 5 colors to choose from, and we're going to end up with 3 winners.
To start, each voter chooses a favorite color, a second choice, and a third.
All right, purple is my first choice, yellow comes in second, and I'll put blue in third place.
Now we need a scoreboard. There were 36 votes cast. There will be 3 winners.
In order for a color to win, it needs more than a quarter of the vote. That's because if a color gets that much, then it's mathematically impossible for it to lose.
36 divided by 4 is 9, and we need just over that.
So plus 1 is 10.
10 votes is the finish line.
Make it there, and you're one of the 3 winners.
So let's count the votes.
No one's reached the finish line yet. That means it's time for round 2.
And orange got the fewest votes, so it's out.
Everyone who voted for orange first now gets their second choice.
Purple reached the finish line.
In fact, purple has more votes than it needs.
That means each purple voter can take back a fraction of their vote and still leave purple with enough to win.
Under instant runoff rules, that's exactly what they get to do.
Purple has 2 votes to spare.
And that gets divided among the 12 purple voters.
So each of them gets 1/6 of their vote back.
And that little piece will go to their next choice.
Now blue has reached the finish line.
No votes to spare,
So no more fractions. Green is in last place. You know the drill.
Most of these votes are for colors that have already won or are already out.
We call those ballots exhausted.
Yellow didn't quite make it to the finish line, but there's no one else left.
So we have our 3 winners.
The instant runoff way.
Too bad. Orange would have probably been my favorite. So that is how the very, very complicated, I'm joking, it's not that complicated, but that is how it works with fractional transfers when you have proportional ranked choice voting. And I just wanted to mention that these are some of the current efforts that are out there so that we realize this may be more than a dream. And I don't want to go into all of them right now, but just wanted to mention them. HR 1, which is the For the People Act, and now as of this week, there's the accompanying S1 bill, advances ranked choice voting in that it requires new money given for new machinery has to accommodate ranked choice voting. There is the Ranked Choice Voting Act that I thought was already introduced, and if somebody else knows, they can weigh in later, but I didn't find the number on that yet. Then there is the John Lewis Voting Rights Advancement Act, which revises pre-clearance for states, and proportional ranked choice voting may be used as a solution for many of those areas. Just like it was, we had a meeting, I guess the last one in Albany, California, where they used an at-large proportional ranked choice voting system to accommodate the Voting Rights Act. And then there is the Fair Representation Act that demands multiple winner districts be combined with ranked choice voting and set up in states by independent commissions. And while I'm at that, I just want to mention one other current thing. One of the reasons we did this today is that tomorrow is Ranked Choice Voting Day, or RCV Day. And on social media, if anybody's on Twitter or other social media, they are using hashtag RCV Day to talk about ranked choice voting. And you can also go to www.rcvday.org. So wanted to get that into. So this is a summary of the benefits of proportional, blah, 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 proportional ranked choice voting. And we see things that are important to the league, like combating gerrymandering and safeguarding against spoilers. But in the end, the biggest benefit is that it does a better job at representing more voters. And even though that kind of stops us for where we wanted to stop for questions, I'll just leave this up for just another minute while people read it. And Paula, I'm going to stop my share screen in a second. And I know that there's also some questions. And
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
While you're
right.
stopping, I just wanted to note, because you just mentioned it, that, oh, now that you stopped your screen share, chat moves. So I have to get that back.
Just hit chat and it'll come up.
It's just connected to the participant thing is the problem.
I
what I was
also
just gonna
see,
say is
I
that,
also see a hand up with Alan Hunter, by the way. But go ahead. What were you going to
okay,
say?
I just wanted to mention that because you just talked about the Fair Representation Act and the Ranked Choice Voting Act,
Mhm.
Jack Nagel is reminding us that that is just for the House of Representatives.
Thank you.
Those two, just in case someone was wondering. So I think we have some questions that we've already gotten. We can start with those. And it might work better if people send directly to Paula Lee in the chat, so I can get the questions that way. Otherwise, I'll be sifting through them, and I'll look for your question, but it might take a while. First question, Barbara. I need more clarity about, this is from Catherine Beal. I hope I'm pronouncing that right, from Utah. I need more clarity about how ranked choice voting works in the Fair Representation Act and whether that act has a chance of passing. Should we focus on it or just focus on ranked choice voting locally?
Okay, I'm going to answer this question, and Paula or anybody else, you're welcome to argue with me after I finish answering it.
Barbara, if people want to add something, can they unmute themselves?
Yeah, but they're going to need to raise their hand so that, oh, you mean just unmute themselves and speak? Yeah, I think we can. We have a lot of people on, though. That's the only problem, but I think we can. What I was going to say is this. Obviously, I'm a huge fan of the Fair Representation Act. I think we've covered it a little bit just there of how it's going to work. And Jack was right. Thank you so much for correcting me or adding in that it is for the House. And it uses an independent redistricting commission to set up a ranked choice voting situation for at-large or multi-member districts, multiple winners. So it is proportional ranked choice voting. And nobody wants to argue with me about that, but they might want to argue with me about this, that I've been wrong about a lot of things having the ability to pass, so who knows? Things could move faster than I anticipate, and I certainly hope that that's true. But if I was in a league and I only had the woman and manpower to take on one thing, approaching ranked choice voting from a local standpoint or supporting the Fair Representation Act, I think you would have more advantage or more success working on it locally. And I don't know if anybody wants to really complain about that, but that would be my suggestion.
And how about, I think we would, the question about focusing on it and RCV locally.
That's what I'm trying to say, that I think that you'd be better off focusing on ranked choice voting at the local level.
Okay. Has the implementation of ranked choice voting in U.S. jurisdictions resulted in more women or people of color being elected?
Part of this is going to be, I'm looking while I'm talking to you. I have some links and information about women being represented by proportional representation. And of course, you also just saw my, saw what I said about Carrie Catt believing that only proportional representation would get women in. I just put some things in the chat box. I hope people can get those. One of them in particular is Represent Women. It's actually kind of an offshoot. Maybe I shouldn't say that, but I think of it as an offshoot of Fair Vote, but it's Represent Women. They have a 2020 voting report, and that has a lot of details in it about electing women and why it's more beneficial. And it's funny, I remember, and I can't remember the source, I admit, but I came from Arizona where we had a multi-member district in the House, a 2-seat thing where 2 people were elected at once. And they did some research and found that if people had the choice that they could vote for 2 people, they were more apt to make one of them a woman, where if they didn't have that choice, they didn't. So kind of interesting. But I don't know all the details and all the stats off the top of my head. I hope the reference will help.
In countries where they do use proportional representation, legislatures are filled with many more women than we have in our Congress. I think we're in the 80th percentile now.
Yeah, there's actually a report, and that may be on Represent Women as well, a world report that shows where we are, and it's pathetic.
Linda Sulzer, she wanted to see a sample ranked choice voting ballot, and she got to see that in your presentation.
Good.
Is ranked choice voting for primary elections only? If it's used in a general election, like for presidential, how would it work? Go to Fair Vote.
Yeah, true. Go to Fair Vote. But it is not just for primaries. It has been used in a lot more primaries these days. I love to hear the Republicans from Utah speak about ranked choice voting that they use in their primary, mostly because they're really good speakers when they talk about ranked choice voting in their primary. And it's been very beneficial, but it's certainly not only for primaries. That's why Maine has adopted it now. And some of, like Alaska just adopted the final four, I wish it were final five, but final four program where they have open primaries. And then in the general, it's an instant runoff voting kind of thing for the top four. And in some places, they're promoting top five.
Okay, I have a lot of other questions here.
Okay. I see some people with hands up too.
Oh, yeah, yeah, I'm just looking in the chat, and the hands are in the participants, so I don't, this is gonna take a while, a lot longer than 5 o'clock, I think, if we try.
Okay.
all these.
Let's try to at least get some of the participants that have their hands
Yeah, I
up.
think it'd be interesting to hear from people. The chat we can review later and try to answer questions.
Okay, so
In order to have a real discussion. Go
Rick,
ahead.
I think Rick might be the person who contacted me recently and is not a fan of many of the things I just said. So Rick, go ahead. Are you a league member, Rick? You are?
I'm in the Sonoma County chapter and
Oh, great.
professor emeritus of mathematics at Sonoma State University.
Uh-huh.
Taught courses in math and politics. So,
Rick, I don't know about other people, but I'm having a little hard time hearing you. If you could just speak up a little bit.
all right, I'll try. I'm a professor emeritus of mathematics with Sonoma State University, and I have taught a course in math and politics where we study these matters. The main point I wanted to make is that, like many people who talk about these matters, you are conflating ranked choice voting with instant runoff voting. They are not the same thing. Ranked choice voting is much broader.
I actually did mention that. I did say that there are other forms of ranked voting, but I'm using more common nomenclature in the country.
Well, the
But
important,
I understand your point.
important thing is, to me, that instant runoff voting, I think, is a flawed system of ranked choice voting. I think there's much better systems.
Mm-hmm. And I'll just answer you because I happen to know other people aren't in the position of knowing what you told me. But Rick supports a kind of Borda system, or Borda, depending on how you like to say it, is a weighted system, which really has some really nice advantages in a lot of different areas. But it is, one of the things is a little more strategic, and it's a little more complicated and not as transparent for governmental elections. And that's one of the reasons I think a lot of leagues haven't gone in that direction, even though there's a lot of nice things to say about it. Did somebody else have their hand up, Paula? It's kind of, we only have 5 minutes, so either hands
I
or.
don't see any other hands up, but there were lots of questions in the chat.
Okay.
One easy one was, what happens when you eliminate the last candidate?
The last candidate loses. I'm not sure. I didn't understand that question. I'm sorry. I don't mean to be facetious. I don't understand.
No, when they're doing the counting, what happens to the candidate?
It's okay. It's the backup of the power of the vote that you saw, we said earlier. And so in this type of ranked choice voting for a single winner, they take the second choice votes of that person and give them to the others. And maybe by the time that person asked that question, they may have seen it on the in the presentation.
Right. I don't see any other hands up. I'm running through them again.
If you did ask a question and Paul is having a hard time getting to it and you really want to ask it, do raise your hand.
Yeah, I'm back to looking at the questions though now.
Okay.
Oh, Alan. Alan's up there.
Oh, okay,
Alan, you have
great.
to, I'll unmute you. Go ahead.
I had posted it in chat, but I wasn't sure that it hadn't fallen through the cracks. Pretend for a moment that I'm the person that got charged with counting the votes. Can you explain to me, as I am a complete and utter idiot, how it is I'm supposed to count these things for the single transferable vote? I don't understand why 25% was the threshold when there were 3 winners. I don't understand the math. I don't understand what to do with this pile of votes. So walk me through this as if I'm stupid.
You know, I don't know if I can get it up quick enough, but if I can, there is a really easy, I think I can. Hang on just a second, and I'm gonna share my screen again. And okay, I know it was there somewhere. Okay, can you see my screen? Can you see my screen?
No.
Oh, shoot. Okay. Okay, hang on. Maybe I didn't hit sorry, everybody, going back and forth is not always that easy. Maybe I didn't hit share screen. Okay. Well, you know what? I'll read it to you because I can see it, Alan. I often have a slide that jokingly has this big word two big words on it that says scary math. And it's a joke because it's just an easy formula, and it's the number of valid votes, like say 100 people voted. So it's 100. And then the one that changes is over the number of open seats plus 1. So if you had on that tape when they did the Post-it notes, they had 3 open seats and then they added 1, so it makes it 4. So you had 100 votes divided by 4 is 25, and then you add 1 vote at the end, and that makes it impossible for more than 1 person to more than 1 person to win. Does that make sense? And it's actually the same exact formula that we end up getting our 50% plus 1. It's the same thing. You know how 50% plus 1 is gotten because you have 100 people divided by say 2 people are running, right? You divide it by 2 and plus 1, so that's 50% plus 1. And
if they were using 100, I thought they were saying it was 25%, and I couldn't figure out where they're getting 25% from. This is much clearer. Thanks.
Okay, good. I'm going to blame her. I had that slide in the presentation, and I think it's Paula that doesn't like it, so I took it out. But it's a simple formula. Okay. Oh, there is another hand up. I will stay on a little after 5 if we need to answer questions, but don't feel obligated either. I did see a hand up for a minute.
I did not. I don't see it.
I see.
Unmute yourself if you had your hand up. Otherwise, I'll just ask another question.
Well, I see somebody named Jean has their hand up. Jean Zingarelli, unmute yourself. I heard a joke the other day about things that 10 years ago you would never have heard, and now you hear all the time, and one of them is unmute yourself.
Yeah.
Just hold the space bar down.
down in the section, if you scroll down, well, mine's down, some people are up. Are
I
you,
did not see her
he's
hand.
not,
Jane Newell?
okay.
Is it Jane Newell?
I had no question, no.
Oh, okay. It wasn't you. I don't know.
Okay, Jean's still trying to unmute. I do want to, I know that people are going to be getting off, and I just want to thank everybody for being here tonight, because just trying to get everybody on the same page. There were a lot of questions that came in, and we could tell that some people knew a lot and some people not so much. And we just felt that it would be helpful to get them all on the same page. And I also want to mention, everybody's kind of familiar with the group fair vote. But there's also the Ranked Choice Voting Resource Center, and they have a lot of good information. There are a lot of former election officials, and they work with election officials, and it's very helpful. Okay, Jean still seems to be having a problem. Jean, if you want to type your question in, I guess we could do it that way. And I don't know if I'm seeing real hands up or if it's just my own computer.
I'm not seeing any.
Okay. In the meantime,
Why did they lose in, why did ranked choice voting fail on the ballot in Massachusetts?
oh,
I would say COVID had something to do with it.
you know, that may be true. I'm going to stick my neck out and say they didn't do well enough at voter education. That's probably one thing. And then there's another thing, quite frankly. I think that Republicans in a Democratic area, doesn't tend to be third parties here because they tend to want it, but Republicans in Democratic areas, or rather, no, Republicans in real strong Republican areas tend not to want it because they can hold on to power better when it's more one party. And Democrats in more Democratic strongholds like Massachusetts often also want to hold on to power more and aren't always as happy to give somebody, even if it's the voter getting more of a voice, sometimes it's not as desired.
Okay.
So do you have other questions?
Jean, I'm still trying to unmute Jean.
You can't unmute him. You can only ask him to unmute himself, at least not that I know of.
No sound, huh?
Oh my gosh, finally, there you go.
Oh, great. Now the question was of all the cities and counties in California, do you know how many use each of the different types of ranked choice voting?
Well, I'm in Oregon, so it's not my bailiwick, but Paul, I think I can say that all but Albany uses the at-large, will be using the at-large system, but all the rest will use single. But I'm going to rely on Paula to answer that question.
Oh.
Yeah, all the jurisdictions in California that use ranked choice voting use the single winner version. It's been very successful. They saved a lot of money, especially in San Francisco. And now we have our second city, but Albany adopted, which is near Berkeley, has adopted ranked choice voting multiple winner version. And that's the first city that's adopted it by initiative. But we also have Palm Desert in Southern California that is using the multiple winner version ordered by a court. So the many jurisdictions. Are you from California?
Yes.
Yeah, then you probably know. there's been over 85 jurisdictions receive threatening letters, threatening to sue for violations of the California Voting Rights Act.
Yeah, yeah.
And let me mention that just before Albany, East Point, Michigan also resolved problems that they were having with the Voting Rights Act by going to a multi-winner ranked choice voting system. More questions, Paula? If not, we'll call it a night and thank everybody for, is there a pressing question or two?
I'm looking a little more. Doesn't ranked choice voting for statewide at-large districts weaken the association of representatives with particular localities? Well, I think that question is, if you expand the district to account for multiple member districts, how does that help connect with voters? Wouldn't every representative have to regard every voter as a constituent? You want to take that one?
Within their district, yes. And, you know, I've heard a lot of people say that their location is less important to them than the things that they believe in, the policies that they believe in. So it's kind of more important that way.
And I would say, Bill, if you want to have a conversation with me about being left out when it's a single member district, like all the congressional districts and well, in California, state assembly and Senate districts, all single member districts. I lived in a red zone for 30 years, and I had no representation for those 30 years at any level of government. And so, yes, if we had proportional representation, I would have more choices as a voter. I would have more people to go to than just that one person that represents the district now. And that one person that represents the district now, he doesn't really need my vote, because the district has been drawn and gerrymandered, or drawn anyway, to make sure that incumbents win over and over. And so that's why I would prefer a system where I would have a choice of influencing more than one person.
There used to be an old term called log rolling too, which, if anybody remembers it, it's kind of people in their own little fiefdoms start negotiating kind of with other fiefdoms for things we might not all want. And that's not always helpful. And like Paula said, it's nice to be able to go to somebody in your district that you relate to. I was just looking at a message in from Jack that says, I think he means in an at-large system, like a state, oh no, in a large system like a state legislature, the state would be divided into multi-member districts to implement STV. Each state would likely have 3, 4, and 5 representatives. I guess you're talking about, I guess you're just talking about a state legislature. Okay, good. Okay, I think we will.
Oh, Celeste is reminding me Palm Desert has been delayed. Thank you, Celeste. Okay.
Okay, thank you, everybody. Appreciate you being here on a Friday night. I know how dedicated we all are to these things when you can say that. I really do appreciate it. And I think that's it. Good night. Good night, all. Stay safe.